Okay, state ready to proceed,
Yes, Your
and defense ready to proceed.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. You may proceed with your opening statement.
Okay, police and court, counsels. It was his birthday. He was here in Tampa for his birthday, celebrating his birthday, celebrating with friends, well-wishers. He had traveled here to this city, to Tampa, to celebrate. And what could not have been in his mind in those early morning hours while he was out celebrating his birthday was that he was being watched. He was being followed. He was being stalked. Stalked by a group of conspirators. He could not have known that he was living the last moments of his 26 years, just barely 26 years, breathing the last breaths of his 26 years of life. These conspirators had planned and were now executing a very premeditated plot that had been hatched days, weeks before this day. A plot hatched between them with every one of their collective evil intentions directed into one purpose, directed into one common goal: the premeditated murder of Charles Jones. This group's collective hatred and animosity drove this conspiracy, a conspiracy amongst all of them, an evil, the evidence will show, and wicked conspiracy. And now, all of their planning, all of their advanced coordination would come to fruition. Charles Jones would only see his killers briefly, maybe for seconds or maybe even a split second, the evidence will show, as they rapidly closed in on him, dressed from head to toe in all black, like ninjas, the evidence will show, coming out of the dark, wearing disguises that they had brought with them, disguises to hide their identities from the ever-present and ubiquitous cameras that permeate our communities. And sitting in the front seat of his Dodge Charger, their plan came perfectly together. He was now the perfect target, caught completely and entirely off guard as these gunmen appeared seemingly out of nowhere. An ambush that these four defendants that sit before you in this courtroom had organized carefully and intended, now being orchestrated perfectly and with precision that permeated their planning and their attention to detail, unable to run, unable to dive, basically caged in the front seat of that Dodge Charger. Charles Jones was a sitting duck. The evidence will show these conspirators didn't hesitate, not for one moment and not for 1 second. With coordinated precision, they ran to their respective firing positions and then unleashed a hellish onslaught, affecting a precisely coordinated violence of action, sending a barrage, a wall of hot lead crashing into the only barriers between them and Charles Jones, the only barriers that separated his life from his death. And those barriers were absolutely no match. No match for the high-powered 5.56 NATO and 300 Blackout high-powered rifle rounds, each of which was traveling at thousands of feet per second, each round carrying with it over 1,200 foot-pounds of lethal energy directed specifically at Charles Jones. A Glock 9mm handgun was being utilized by one of these conspirators, but not the way that it was designed. Not as a semi-automatic handgun where you get a single bullet with a single trigger pull. No. This Glock had been converted into a fully automatic hand cannon, and now it was running wide open, fully automatic, depositing over 30 rounds out of its extended magazine into the hood and into the windshield of that Dodge Charger. All of this gunfire filling the early morning darkness with booming concussions and flaming, explosive muzzle flashes. And as these high-pressured, high-powered rounds filled the atmosphere around the front of that Dodge Charger, Charles Jones sat there, unable to move or do anything fast enough to evade them. Charles Jones, a name and an indictment, and now you see him. It will be clear to all of you in the state's evidence that this conspiracy hatched not minutes, not hours, but days and weeks before this date, before this murder. A conspiracy formulated in the hearts and minds of these four defendants with one common agreed upon goal: death, murder, and violence. A conspiracy that began days before, hundreds of miles away from Tampa. A conspiracy that would span through several days, over 500 miles of travel. A conspiracy that involved reservations being made, disguises selected, gear being obtained, weapons being selected, manipulated, loaded, and made ready. Transportation was obtained, vehicles with specific purposes, and a plot that required advanced planning and logistics to include housing, communications, and transport would materialize and become reality, a criminal, murderous operation. These conspirators traveling from the northeast corner of this state all the way here to Tampa, following their target, conspiring to murder Charles Jones, the evidence will show, not in his hometown, but here in Tampa, where his guard would be down while he was celebrating his birthday. You will see in this evidence the clock-like precision of these conspirators as they work together as a team. The conspirators. Isaiah Chance, also known as Gutta Zay, Gutta Man, Gutta, and Mr. Rich Off War. Sean Gathright, Davion Murphy, and Rashad Murphy, also known as Ghost or Ghost 187. There was a fifth participant that night, Alicia Andrews, who was Mr. Chance's, defendant Isaiah Chance's girlfriend, and who, along with Isaiah Chance, would provide the essential surveillance for this conspiracy. To understand the wicked purpose that drove and motivated this shared desire to end Charles Jones' life, we need to look back in time in the city of Jacksonville, to the lives and associations of Mr. Jones and all of these defendants. We'll go back in years, and I'm going to walk you through a gang war that has been occurring in the city of Jacksonville, and that in this case traveled here and spilled into our streets here in Tampa. Gerard Adams, also known as Spaz, was part of a gang called 1200. He was murdered in August of 2018. Mr. Adams, as I said, was part of a gang, 1200. 1200 is affiliated with another gang, ATK. Those two gangs are affiliated. Adrian Bibby Gaynor was associated to another gang, 6 Block, which was an opposing gang. In this case, in the evidence, you may hear the term ops or opposition or dead ops, meaning opposing gangs, the opposition. ATK and 1200 were and are the opposition to 6 Block. 6 Block also has a subset or a sub-gang, bully gang, which is confederated with 6 Block. Jaquan Pickens, also known as Jake Jitt, was murdered in August of 23. August 16th of 23. The next day, August 17th of 23, Jacoby Lowell Colby Beals, a 1200 gang member, shot multiple times. He would survive. And you can see in this, and you will see in the state's evidence, a back and forth between these gangs that oppose each other. In October of 23, October 6th specifically of 23, around 11:45, Antonio Tilley, who was an ATA, or was an ATA gang member, was shot to death while he was in an Uber. Just over 6 hours after the murder of Antonio Tilley, on October 7th, a Attackers with high-powered rifles would shoot up that same Dodge Charger being driven by our murder victim, Charles Jones. This was 9 months before the murder of Charles Jones. He had left his house at about 6 in the morning and was driving down the street, coming to a stop sign, when attackers with high-powered rifles opened up on his Dodge Charger. He would escape that morning with his life. He would drive to a local hospital and be treated for a gunshot wound to his lower leg. Drill rap. We talked about rap music yesterday with several folks in the jury pool. Drill rap is a different type of rap. It is a specific type of rap that these groups that I've already talked to you about, 6 Block and Bully Gang, and then on the other side, 1200 ATK, engaged in. Songs that were produced and songs that were distributed on social media platforms like YouTube and Spotify. Rap music where the opposing gangs' casualties, people in those gangs that had been murdered, would be demeaned, mentioned, ridiculed, made fun of, to elevate the gang making the video, to elevate their status. They would demean not just the other gang, but what is more incendiary, they would speak specifically to members of the opposing gang who had been murdered in sarcastic lyrics, traveling in some instances to gravesides, whether it was the graveside of that person who was actually killed or some other graveside that would stand in. In addition to the drill rap, they would post photos on social media making fun of the opposing gang's casualties. I'm going to walk you through a couple of videos that you will see in the state's evidence. This video is a combination 1200 ATK video. The major performer is an individual named Kenyatta Bullard, also known as Youngin Ace or Ace. Spinabins is one of the performers who is a well-known drill rap gang member in Jacksonville, and Wappa with the Choppa is another. You can see in this photograph in the background, Young and Ace in the yellow. Kenyatta Bullard, aka Young and Ace. And you can see his ATK chain around his neck. In this video, you will see these performers at times during the video pointing up in the air, and you will see the names of people appearing on the screen. Those are casualties from 6 Block. Those are people who were murdered on the opposite side. And you will hear them talking about them in this drill rap. So we see here the title to the drill rap song, Spinabins, Wappa with the Choppa, Young and Ace, and Fast Money Goon are all participants in this video. And this is them pointing, Tiki being an opposing gang member who was murdered. Judge, I need some technical assistance.
Sure.
That's okay. Thank you. You heard the name Bibby, Adrian Gaynor, one of the people that we discussed earlier in the gang war. That was just one of several that they were pointing out. Who I smoke, meaning who is killed or shot. So we saw Spinabins and Wappa with the Choppa. Spinabins Noah Williams came out with this song concerning this murder, this song being released within a couple of days of the murder of Charles Jones. It's called Foolio Dead. Now, that last video, the Who I Smoke video by Young and Ace, these videos are not just put onto YouTube. Young and Ace is a celebrity. He has tens of millions of followers on Spotify and YouTube. These songs attract a lot of attention. This song, as I said, was put out within a day or two of the death of Charles Jones here in Tampa. You're going to see references and hear references in this to not only Charles Jones' name, but to the name Six, Mr. Six, or Six, meaning 6 block. Gathright, can you come assist me again?
It's over for him. It's coming. And now we have to take this mess and clean it up.
Charles Jones as rapper.
It's not a joke. I know they said
about who they're talking about. You even saw footage from the area where the murder occurred. Foolio dead for real, his ass a ghost. This is a good example of drill rap.
No, it's over.
This was another song, this one by Young and Ace, the same guy from the Who I Smoke video. This song came out, I think, 4 or 5 days after the murder of Mr. Jones. This is called Game Over. So you hear him mentioning Mr. Six. That is Charles Jones. The Don Julio you keep seeing, the tequila, again, that is a diss against Charles Jones, whose rap name was Julio Foolio. 5 in the morning, you will find in the evidence in this case that this crime occurred around 4:40 a.m. He says 4 in the car, 1 dead, 3 hit. Mr. Jones was murdered, and 3 other individuals you will find in the evidence. You heard the attempted murder counts against 3 of these defendants. 3 others were hit with gunfire but survived. As I said, Kenyatta Bullard is a certified celebrity. And you also saw that. That is just a still from that video. And that's talking about both Charles Jones and his gang, 6 Block. Charles Jones, also known as Julio Foolio, also known as Foolio, Mr. Six, or just Six. Like Kenyatta Bullard, the person in the last 2 videos that was the lead rapper, who is the public face of ATK, Mr. Jones, the evidence will show, was the public face of 6 Block. He was the main person in that gang, the main spokesperson, and he was also a celebrity with tens of millions of followers on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. This is a drill rap song that Mr. Jones did a couple of years before his murder. He will talk about several people that are opposing gang casualties. You will see a poster that he is holding and walking around that has 3 photographs on it, 3 young men that were all murdered in a shooting that involved Kenyatta Bullard, Young and Ace, who was the only survivor of that shooting.
Kenyatta and Trevon Bullard caused news for Jackson. The 2 brothers were out with Royale Smith and Jacoby Coleman Tuesday night, celebrating Smith's birthday. The celebration turned to tragedy. Police said the men were all fighting together in this car on Townsend and Subway. People in another car that pulled up beside them started shooting at them.
Slide through the club, I don't see nobody outside. He's a boy, you don't get no rep or doing drive-by. Ace on the west side, he could up with the east side. He ain't been the same since he seen them other 3 die. Damn, I'm too 3 high. Bitch, say your clip high. Get that boy the business like a suit in a bow tie. Like the boy dark up like the 4th of July. They got caught like the whole world wanna know why. Went out to eat on his birthday. 4 shot, 3 dead in the worst way. He kept this on me. Now we smoking 23. You always on my mind, always on my mind. When I ride through the east side, I wanna see you. See when I see you. When I.
So a couple of things about that video. He says, happy birthday 23. 23 was one of the young men, that was his street name, that was murdered in that shooting. They had gone out to celebrate his birthday, and you heard him say very sarcastically happy birthday several times in that video. He also says he fell in love with dead ops. Got dead ops on my mind. Dead opposition. Casualties of the opposite side. He also says something very similar to the video that Kenyatta Bullard, Young and Ace put out after Julio Foolio, Charles Jones murder. In this case, 4 shot, 3 dead. Very similar lyrics. This is a back and forth diss. This is back and forth. And it is this animosity and hatred between these gangs that drove the conspiracy in this case, that caused these 4 defendants to confederate and to conspire, in this case, to engage in this coordinated, planned, murderous attack. Another thing about that last video by Mr. Jones, he talks about on the east side, the west side, these terms 6 block and 1200 refer to areas of Jacksonville. This is a territorial gang war, and these gangs are in certain areas and have control over certain areas of Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, you will hear in this evidence, has committed resources to a gang unit, and it's staffed by several gang detectives who get training and education in how to investigate gangs, how to maintain information and intelligence on those gangs. One of the things they do is they monitor that. They monitor their social media. And you will hear testimony from some of these gang detectives in this case. These detectives, each of them specializing in specific gangs to give full commitment by the Sheriff's Office to this gang war and the violence that's occurring in the streets of Jacksonville and Duval County. So Charles Jones belonged to and was affiliated to the wrong group. He was their spokesperson. You will find in the evidence in this case that these defendants, Rashad Murphy, Davion Murphy, are 1,200 gang members. You will also hear that Isaiah Chance is an ATK gang member affiliated closely with 1,200. Now, you're not going to hear evidence that Mr. Gathright is a gang member, and we haven't charged anything in our indictment about that, but you're going to hear he is associating with all of these gang members and was a fully committed participant in this murder. But these gangs, they despise and abhor each other, the evidence will show. So I want to talk to you about the murder itself. So you heard mention in the dead op, or the Foolio dead drill rap video by Spinabins and Wappa with the Choppa, the one that started with the blue screen. What you're looking at on the upper part of that screen, you can see Embassy Suites, USF, you can see the USF Research Park. That's Fowler, and that is the main entrance to the University of South Florida's campus. This is all just to the east of Bruce B. Downs, right? To the lower part, you have an extension of 40th Street, which becomes McKinley. And right there in the corner, you heard them mentioning Holiday Inn, which is running horizontal. Next to it is a vertical building. That is the Home to Suites. And it is on the very south end, or the bottom of the photograph, on that vertical building. There is a portico there, an entrance to that hotel. That is where the shooting in this case occurs. Now, in this photograph, you can see on the far left, there is a La Quinta Inn. That becomes relevant in the state's case because one of these high-powered rifle rounds went all the way across and went through and into a room and there was recovered projectiles. This is more of a close-up. Now, on the bottom of the photograph, you can see, to the bottom right, you can see an entrance into the Home to Suites parking lot from McKinley. And you can see right at the bottom of the building a square offset. That is the roof of the portico, the entrance to the hotel. Just a more close-up photograph. So I want to walk through several videos with you that were recovered in the investigation by the Tampa Police Department here in Tampa that show what's occurring. Unfortunately, my laser pointer is not, well, maybe it will. It actually is working a little bit. Okay, usually LED screens will absorb the laser. So you're going to see here, you're going to see the Dodge Charger, Mr. Jones' Dodge Charger pulling into the portico. And you can see up here, that's a few minutes off. It's actually around 4:34, 4:35 a.m. in the morning. It's June 23rd of 2024. But he's pulling into that portico, having just turned off southbound McKinley. You can see here, this is a Hyundai that'll go down, turn around, and come up behind him. That's being driven by Armani, who is his... Armani Turner, excuse me, who is his girlfriend.
Wait, yes?
I can't see the laser.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't work great on the LED screen.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So,
What you're describing, I can't.
Yeah, I thought that might happen, Your Honor, with the jurors in the back
that's fine.
row.
So just, Mr. Harmer will try to be as descriptive as he can, okay?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the car with the tail lights lit up, that's the Hyundai on the top of the screen. That's outside of the portico. It's going to continue in the direction it's pointing. It'll do a U-turn, a sharp U-turn, and pull in right behind Charles Jones' Dodge Charger. Mr. Jones is in the front passenger seat. The car is being driven by his friend Xavier Edwards. The car that is sitting there already in the portico belongs to an employee. That's unrelated to the case. And this steaming coming off there, that's coming from the building. It has nothing to do with the cars. You're going to see Mr. Jones. He's wearing a red knit cap. He's wearing a white t-shirt. You will see him exit the Charger and walk into the hotel. So what happens is, while they were out that night, he had made a reservation, but because they arrived so late, it was given away. In this video, you'll see him return. In some instances, the video is being accelerated slightly, like right now. There's a car pulling in to the parking lot and going northbound. That becomes very relevant, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. This car, a Nissan Altima, is being driven by two of Mr. Jones' friends. They had gone around to the other side of the hotel and were just coming back. You're going to see an individual named Taifa or Taifa McCrae and Miss Albritton, who was dressed in a all-pink suit. who are friends of Mr. Jones. They exit and they go into the hotel to use the restroom, and they're actually inside the lobby when the shooting occurs. When Tafa got out of the front seat of the Altima, another young lady, Camilla Bentley, slid in behind him in the front seat. Now you're going to see another car come by. This is a small silver Chevy Cruze. This you will find in the evidence is the surveillance tracker vehicle that was utilized by these conspirators, by these defendants, to follow, to track and stalk Mr. Jones and his friends, giving real-time, by communications, by phone, real-time location data and information about where he would be. This car passes by, being driven by defendant Isaiah Chance, his girlfriend. You saw her earlier. Miss Andrews is in the front passenger seat. The assault team is already present on the west side of the hotel. That was the car that had pulled in earlier and went northbound and did not pass the portico. This is a mounted camera, by the way, folks, on the hotel that's facing east-southeast. If you look in the upper right part of the screen by the two palm trees, you're going to see right before the shooting happens a masked individual's face pop out. The evidence in this case will show that is defendant Rashad Murphy. He is the Glock shooter. This is the beginning of the, well, actually it's not. First we're going to see the Chevy Cruze come by. And then the Chevy Cruze will do a three-point turn. You'll see that in other video evidence shortly, and it turns around and goes back out. And now it's exiting. Mr. Chance drives right past the victim and exits the parking lot of the hotel literally within seconds of the murder occurring and starting. You will see him exiting to the right, going southbound on McKinley. The evidence will show that he goes down, he does a U-turn and comes back north on McKinley and passes the hotel just before the shooting begins. There's the shooter. Xavier Edwards tries to escape from the shooting. You can see the other two cars, one being driven by Camilla Bentley, who's going forward, the other one being driven by Armani Turner, who's going backwards. In their haste to flee from the shooting, they actually collide with each other, and they both end up going southbound on McKinley. They go different directions. Now, this is what I was talking about, where by the palm trees you will see a head pop out right before the full appearance of the shooters. That is Rashad Murphy. You will see another shooter run over to that tree just to the center of the video screen, just to the right of that Lexus SUV. The evidence will show in this case that that is defendant Gathright. On the top of the screen, you see a Mercedes SUV and a yellow car, and you see an individual moving around. The evidence will show that is the defendant, Davion Murphy. who was firing. And you can see in this evidence that Mr. Edwards attempts desperately to flee from these shooters, but what he actually does is he drives directly into a crossfire, a vortex, if you will, of high-powered rifle fire. The car flees down the west side of the hotel, heading north. Now, just around the corner, wrapping around to the west side of the hotel, the attack team parks the car. They get out and move into position coming around to that corner. As they move through there, they pass a Tesla. This is a video from a Tesla. There are multiple screens and videos you will see from this Tesla, which was in sentry mode, activated, and recorded. Officers met with the owner the next morning, who showed them this video on the screen inside of the Tesla, and they were able to collect this video. In this instance, and you can see to the far right, you can see a charging station with cables hanging off of it. You will see in the grass area by the charging station, you will see Davion Murphy running by, holding a rifle, wearing all black with an orange ski mask. And he's heading up to that area by that yellow Bronco and the Mercedes SUV, where he later pops out. Now, in a minute, you're going to see Xavier Edwards accelerating that Dodge Charger around the corner. You'll see its headlights sweep across those, I believe, probably cypress trees right there. There comes the headlights. He is now fleeing up the west-northwest side of the Home to Suites. You're going to see Mr. Murphy, Davion Murphy, unload with that rifle down the west side of that hotel. Mr. Jones' Charger, after being impounded and transported to the Tampa Police Department. Impound lot, all of those yellow marks, other than the ones on the hinges, are going to be impacts. So you see Miss Turner, Mr. Jones' girlfriend in the upper left. She was in the Hyundai. Miss Randolph, her friend, was in the Hyundai. And Robert Howard, who is a friend of Charles Jones, was in the Hyundai with those women, sitting directly behind the Dodge Charger. You see Tafa McCrae and Aaliyah Albritton, the woman who was in the pink outfit, who were in the Nissan Altima. Xavier Edwards was wounded. He was shot in his right arm. He had a grazing wound to his head. Shot in the shoulder. This is him at the hospital being treated. Sustained multiple gunshot wounds. And you can see lacerations from glass or projectiles to his left hand. He is one of the victims of one of the attempted murder counts charged against Davion and Rashad Murphy and against Sean Gathright. Gino Norris. Mr. Norris is a longtime friend of Charles Jones, going back several years into their youth. He was in the back seat of the Charger. He had come with Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Jones had traveled here from Jacksonville to celebrate the birthday. When they arrived here, it was on Friday night, and they stayed at an Airbnb in Pinellas County. The next day, they stayed at an Airbnb in Pasco County in Holiday. And I'm going to show you here shortly where Mr. Jones was posting on his Instagram account that he would be here in Tampa. He actually appeared at a couple of clubs and put up advertisements for those appearances. But he was asking people if they, advertising that he was having a pool party for his birthday party that Saturday of this weekend. That would have been the 22nd of June, 2024, at the Airbnb. And you'll see in the Instagram post, he was advising people that follow him, send me a DM and I'll send you the address. So they actually did, and a lot of people showed up at that Airbnb in Holiday, and eventually, because of the crowds, the owner of the Airbnb shut it down and kicked them all out. And that's why they were trying to find lodging at the Home to Suites later that night after Mr. Jones had made these appearances, which we'll discuss in a minute. But Mr. Norris had traveled here with his friend Charles Jones and with Mr. Edwards. He was in the back seat. Mr. Jones was shot in the right arm. He is also one of the victims of the 3 attempted murder counts against the shooters in this case. Now, when Mr. Edwards and Mr. Gino Norris, when that Charger came to a stop finally, they quickly realized that Charles Jones was gone. He died very fast. They bailed out of the Dodge Charger. They were both shot. Mr. Norris will tell you he had been asleep and had been woke up by the crashing of the Dodge Charger. You will see that as it went up the northwest side of the hotel, there was a curb and a grass area where there's a dumpster. It went right over the curb, right through that grassy area and into a north area where there's another parking lot before it finally stopped, bullet riddled and steaming. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Norris bail out of the car and they run from these shooters because they don't know where they are. They run into a Holiday Inn and they leave a massive blood trail that leads into that Holiday Inn, which police would later follow when they arrive because of the multiple 911 calls being generated from all of the noise of the gunfire. Now, Camilla Bentley, I told you, had slid into the driver's seat. You can see these impacts from gunfire to the rear window of the Altima. That rear window would have been closest to the shooters. Miss Bentley was also wounded. She is our 4th victim. This is her in the hospital being treated for a bullet grazing wound to her right upper arm. Now, going back, I told you I would show you, and you will see in the evidence, Mr. Jones' Instagram account, and you can see the name Julio Foolio. That's his celebrity name, his rap name, and his street name. He is advertising that he is going to be appearing at Teasers. You see that in the middle of the advertisement on Nebraska Avenue, 9700 North Nebraska Avenue. He is going to be appearing on June 22nd. So for his birthday, you can see B-Day in the middle there. He is advertising, and then you also can see Mr. Howard there in the yellow. He was one of the individuals in the Hyundai. He's advertising his whereabouts on June 22nd, where he is going to be. This is another advertisement. B-Day Bash for Julio Foolio at Teasers, June 22nd, 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. And you can see in the lower left on your screens where he is saying my Airbnb pool party, June 21st, that was the Friday night one, and my official birthday party, June 22nd, Club Teasers. He gives the club address, so he's giving his location where he's going to be. Now, this is a message sent to a phone that Mr. Murphy, Rashad Murphy, was utilizing. On June 22nd, he receives this confirmation concerning and I'm going to come back to this later, and I'll let you look at it in a little more detail, but it's concerning the booking of an Airbnb in Tampa on June 22nd. This is being sent in the early morning hours of the 22nd, and the owner is telling him that the HOA requires for security purposes that all guests booking with us provide a valid ID through the Airbnb message portal. Mr. Murphy obliges, and in the phone that he was utilizing, he sends his photograph back to the Airbnb owner. Now, this is a Vivint or Vivint camera mounted at the residence of Sean Gathright. This is June 22nd, Saturday, in the middle of the day. This is the beginning of that day for these conspirators. You're going to see Mr. Gathright and Mr. Chance loading a Chevy Impala that is being driven by Mr. Gathright, Sean Gathright. It is registered to his mother, but it is the car that he drives and operates. And it is the car that transports the shooters, the assault team of which he is part of in this case. You're going to see them loading it with book bags, but you're also going to see them loading it with rolling duffel bags, long bags that appear to have weight to them. That's Mr. Gathright, Mr. Chance. You will see the evidence that they are friends. That is the Impala, the black car.
Yeah.
We're talking about how they're going to load the heaviest bags into the trunk first. The BMW on the top part of the screen belongs to Mr. Chance. He would later go and retrieve his girlfriend, Miss Andrews, and bring her back to this residence. And that's in Jacksonville. Now, at some point that afternoon before they leave, Mr. Chance brings his contribution to the assault team. This is going to be in slow-mo, but you're going to see a Glock handgun with an extended magazine. You see his finger resting down the side of the slide. He tucks the gun into his waistband as he walks back into Mr. Gathright's residence. Notably, he knows the combination of Mr. Gathright's residence. And you can see the extended magazine coming out from the bottom of his hand. You can see the trigger guard below his hand and his finger extended down the slide of that pistol. Mr. Chance on the left, Sean Gathright in the middle, and Miss Andrews on the right. They end up leaving that residence. Mr. Gathright driving the black Impala. They travel from Jacksonville that Saturday afternoon down around near Gainesville, all the way down 75, down to 275, and they come down, and you will see them end up at the Airbnb, which Mr. Rashad Murphy has booked for them, which is sitting literally 1.38 miles from the home to suites, just on the north side of the USF campus, the University of South Florida. Now, you're going to hear about an investigative device called LPRs. You may know what those are. It stands for license plate recognition. It is a system, in this case, Flock, which is a company that produces these systems. They utilize different camera systems that integrate into their network. In this case, the camera system is from the Florida Highway Patrol. Flock is frequently contracts with cities, with law enforcement agencies. Sometimes they'll put up their own network of cameras, which later plays a role in this case. A lot of times they incorporate other cameras. But when a license plate is put into the system, it can pick that license plate up as it is en route traveling. And in this case, investigation revealed Mr. Gathright Chevy Impala being picked up on this license plate reader on June 22nd, 2024. Here it is at the merger of I-75 and 275 heading southbound. You see the latitude, longitude coordinates on the third row up on the right. You see the area or nearest address is New Tampa. It is a Florida Highway Patrol camera. Now, in the top part, 3 rows down, you see the date and you see a time, 11:39:28 p.m. UTC. That is Coordinated Universal Time, what used to be known as Greenwich Mean Time. It is a standard utilized in aviation, utilized in space travel, but is it a standard that is utilized a lot of times by cell carriers and call detail records from cell phone companies, and it's utilized in law enforcement frequently, but it is a standard time. Here they have given us the conversion to Eastern Daylight Time, which in June, here in the Eastern Standard Time, we are in Eastern Daylight Time, EDT, and you go 4 hours back to 7:39 p.m. So this is them arriving in Tampa at 7:39 p.m. And again, Coordinated Universal Time, UTC, is like Greenwich Mean Time. It's basically the time zone in England. Two of our other conspirators, Rashad Murphy on your left and his blood cousin, Davion Murphy, on the right. They are also picked up, this time on an open AALPR. License plate recognition report is generated. They are driving in a silver Chevy Cruze that Mr. Murphy would later tell law enforcement he had obtained from his brother's, the mother of his brother's child, his nephew, a woman, and a car outside of these groups of people, one that would not necessarily be recognized by someone, and a car that would later be utilized by Mr. Chance and his girlfriend as a tracker surveillance video that would be following and tracking, the evidence will show, Charles Jones and his friends as they celebrated through those early morning hours. So you see on the right-hand side here, this is being picked up June 22nd, and they list this company does, in Eastern Daylight Time, 7:46 p.m. at Bruce B. Downs at Tampa Palms. So they are heading into the New Tampa area, heading down just north of the USF campus. Here we see their routes being covered on the right-hand side. Yes, by that Chevy Cruze, the route that it takes coming and going back. On the left-hand side are areas where it is being picked up on license plate readers. Okay, first one on top, June 21st, is going back to Friday. University Drive, Dolphin Drive is an address or an area of Jacksonville. That's when it's still in Jacksonville. 6:22 in the morning, it's driving. It's on Highway 441 at 18:09 hours. That is 6:09 p.m. It is at 326 in Gainesville Road near Gainesville. At 7:47 on the 22nd, Tampa Palms Boulevard in Bruce B. Downs, BBD. And later in the early morning hours, you can see where it is being picked up on Hillsborough and North 15th. And then on the 23rd at 6 p.m. later in the day, again, now going back to Jacksonville northbound. That Hillsborough Avenue and North 15th is an address just south of Teasers. You'll see in the evidence that while surveilling the victim and his entourage of friends, that Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews at times drove away from Teasers and then came back. This is showing you on your left side the Chevy Cruze and the Impala being picked up at the same times, the same locations, by the same license plate readers. So you can see they're highlighted at 18:09 hours. They are both being picked up at 326 in Gainesville Road. At 1947 and 1945, they were both being picked up at Tampa Palms Boulevard and Bruce B. Downs. At 3:41 hours, Hillsborough Avenue and 15th Street. This is the Impala and the Cruise operating in tandem, traveling in tandem, coming from Jacksonville, and then operating through into the early morning hours of the attack. This is the Airbnb location at Gazebo Pond Lane, where that red marker is, and that's a direct, as a crow would fly, line down to the home to suites, 1.38 miles. You can see the entire University of Florida campus, University of South Florida's campus between Fletcher and Fowler depicted in that. This is the Airbnb on Gazebo Lane. The door on the left. You can see the Ring camera mounted to the side of the door. Now, this is Miss Andrews on the 22nd. She's knocking on the door and she ends up being let in. And you'll hear someone say, "My bad," as she's let in. So there's clearly people inside of the Airbnb. What is significant is, on the 22nd, she is the only person who enters through the front door. The rest of the conspirators go this way, down the side of the building, around the back of the building, and they enter through sliding glass doors. They do not allow themselves to be recorded by the camera, by the door, the Ring camera. Miss Andrews is the only one on the 22nd. That changes after the murder. They start getting sloppy, the evidence will show, later the next day on Sunday. And they basically, all of them start showing up on that camera. All of them except for Rashad Murphy, the ghost. He doesn't show up anywhere until later. So they go through, and that's where they enter. Now, at 1:40 a.m., Mr. Jones, his friends are arriving at the Teasers on North Nebraska around 1:55, close to 2. He doesn't get there till about 2:30 in the morning in the Dodge Charger. But at 1:40 a.m., 3 hours before the murder, about an hour before this conspiracy, before these conspirators begin their hunt for the victim at Teasers, Alicia Andrews' phone leaves the Airbnb and goes to a nearby McDonald's at 2205 East Fletcher. That's 22nd Street in Fletcher. There's a McDonald's there. It's a 24-hour McDonald's. On the right-hand side, you see some cell tower mapping. I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. But her phone is mapped at that location, and you will see the Chevy Cruze come into the parking lot and work itself through the drive-through lanes. The driver of the Chevy Cruze, you will find in the evidence, is Davion Murphy. Miss Andrews is in the front passenger seat. So now you see Davion Murphy. He is smoking a cigar and he's talking to the young lady working in the McDonald's. You can see someone next to him in a car on the right-hand side. The evidence will show that's Miss Andrews, Mr. Chance's girlfriend. But what is significant is they buy a lot of food, a lot more than for two people. Now, going later in the morning, this is video recovered from the Teasers nightclub on Nebraska, where Mr. Jones had advertised he would be appearing. Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews walking in the parking lot. Mr. Chance is wearing a hoodie, and in June of 2024, he is wearing a COVID mask. Miss Andrews is wearing a COVID mask. You see in that video, Mr. Chance has a phone to his head. He is communicating directly with Mr. Gathright by way of that phone. They are using some type of app that is not picked up. They are not text messaging or making phone calls. But that is Alicia Andrews' phone. So her phone becomes relevant because it is being utilized by Mr. Chance to set up their communications with the assault team. You saw her just a minute ago putting in her passcode and handing the phone so Mr. Chance could utilize it. They are there to track and to stalk and to hunt Charles Jones, and then to provide real-time location information to Mr. Gathright, who was driving his Impala with both of the Murphys in the Impala, the assault team. There's the surveillance team. So as I said, and again, this video is slightly off, but Mr. Jones arrives, that's in front, that's the front entrance to Teasers. You see at the bottom, it's 2:29:49 a.m. is the converted time. The date is correct. This is early Sunday morning now. And now you see Mr. Chance still there with his girlfriend. And then around 2:54:22 a.m. real time in the morning, Mr. Jones and his friends leave Teasers. Now, you will see in the evidence, you will see video evidence of Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews arriving, and you will see the direction that they travel on foot and the direction they travel in the car. They exit shortly before this, they exit, but they stay nearby, and at 2:46 or at 2:54:22, Mr. Jones begins to leave. 2:54:22, shortly or right around the same time, because again, this time on the top of this screen is off a little bit, you will see the Chevy Impala with these three individuals, Rashad Murphy, Sean Gathright driving, and Davion Murphy in that vehicle. It is like within a minute of Mr. Jones coming out of the club and beginning to leave that they arrive on the north end of the parking lot in the Impala. And they pull in, they're going to be right behind the car that's already in. They're the ones pulling in off of Nebraska southbound. And there they are, fully inside of the parking lot. This is the north side of the business. They end up going westbound and then southbound, and then they come back on the road that sits on the south side of Teasers, passing in front of the entrance. This is Mr. Jones and his friends leaving. You see the three cars with the taillights lighting up. The one on the left of the screen is the Charger. So this is the path of travel. The green is Mr. Jones and his friends parked directly in front. That's the front part, the south end of the building. That photograph is in the normal orientation of a map. North on the top, south on the bottom, west to the left, east to the right. So at almost precisely the time that he exits the front to leave. The Impala comes south on Nebraska, pulls into the north end of the red arrows, goes to the west, then to the south, onto South Castle, and comes right by. There are a lot of folks standing in front of that club at that point. Now, the blue markers are the Chevy Cruze. So you can see the Chevy Cruze enters, parks. You see the rectangle on the north side of the parking lot. That's where Mr. Chance parked. The little ovals and dots are where he and Miss Andrews walked. They walked through the parking lot and came around to the south end so they could look down the front of the building and see what was going on while they were on Miss Andrews' phone communicating with Mr. Gathright. Mr. Jones and his friends then traveled to an after party, and this is on Bush Boulevard. This is the south side of Bush Boulevard. This is a club called Truth 18. It sits in a strip mall. It's on the second floor of the strip mall. So you're going to see them going upstairs. At one point, you're going to see Mr. Jones live streaming on Instagram with his phone, celebrating his birthday. Let me stop that.
Turn that down a bit.
The Dodge Charger pulling in front, and then the Hyundai. The camera angle is from the second floor of the strip mall right near where Truth 18 is, pointing what would have been northbound into the parking lot. So now they're all parked. To the far left, you see the Nissan Altima, Miss Albrecht in her pink suit, Tafa McCray in his blue shirt. On the right-hand side, you see that's the edge on the farthest right-hand side of the Dodge Charger. You'll see Mr. Jones step out in a minute. To the upper left, or upper part to the left, is Miss Turner and Miss Randolph getting out of the Hyundai, and then some other friends. Now you're going to see them going up the stairs. The people on the upper balcony on the right are near Truth 18. So Mr. Jones in the red shorts, red cap. That's Mr. Norris with the number 8 shirt on in front. And you can see there's a lot of well-wishers and friends that early morning with Mr. Jones. And he'll start live streaming here in a minute.
Everywhere we go.
This video is being sped up right now. You're going to see the Chevy Cruze arrive on the top of the screen. This is pointing southbound from the north. And now in the top part of the screen, you see Mr. Chance walking with his hood and his mask, holding the phone to his ear with Miss Andrews right in front of Truth 18. Cruze is parked over to that side of the nightclub. to the what would be the east side. They go down the park or down the sidewalk. They come back. And now, about 30 minutes later, 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, Mr. Jones and his
Mr.
friends
Herman,
start.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you over all the background noise.
Oh, okay.
So we either turn the volume.
Judge, I'm sorry, we can't hear a thing.
I know. I'm asking Mr. Harmon to either turn the volume down, or if he's going to talk, then stop the video and talk. So.
Okay. Let me know. So now we're in a section of the video. You can see the Impala. This is, again, that southbound video, which would be just to the east of Truth 18. You saw the Impala pulling into the parking lot of a business to the east there. I believe it's an Enterprise car rental. They pull into a spot and they sit there. The video is being sped up for time's sake. Now you see it pulling out. You'll see them pull across the street, turn around, come back so that they're facing Bush Boulevard at a stop sign. Right there, right in the upper right-hand corner. These cameras on the bottom floor at the strip mall where the Truth 18, below Truth 18, depicting Mr. Jones and his friends leaving. You'll see them all drive one direction, turn around, and come back the other direction. They'll pull on to Bush Boulevard. They'll head initially eastbound and then do a U-turn and go back westbound towards 40th Street. The Charger just pulled out with the Hyundai behind it, heading to the right as you look at the screen. The Hyundai's now stopped, waiting for the Charger to go by, and Ms. Turner follows Mr. Jones. The Altima's being delayed by that car parking, and now Mr. McCray is following. They will pull on to Bush, as I said. They will go to the east. You will see them in the middle, top part of the screen doing U-turns. There is a turning lane there. That's Mr. Jones' Charger. You see the sweep of his headlights. He is heading back now westbound towards 40th Street, followed by the Hyundai, and now Mr. McCrae in the Altima. There goes the silver Chevy Cruze in pursuit, following, being driven by Mr. Chance. This is the intersection of McKinley and Fowler. To the upper right-hand corner, upper right corner of the screen is the Home to Suites Holiday Inn complex. To the bottom of the screen is the entrance to the University of South Florida. And you see Mr. Jones and his friends pulling up, heading northbound. That's their headlights, and they've got their indicators, blinkers on. You will see them do a U-turn. Head back south on McKinley, 40th Street, and turn right. Here goes Mr. Jones. They will turn right into the Holiday Inn. Now, as they're doing this, you see approaching headlights to the left coming northbound on McKinley. That is the Chevy Cruze being driven by Mr. Chance. He passes by them as they're pulling into the hotel. Mr. Chance turns to the right, heading eastbound on Fowler. He drives down, comes back westbound, and you will see him now turning into the University of South Florida, where he stages at the Embassy Suites. And now those headlights heading north. That is the Chevy Impala, which was, the evidence will show, nowhere in sight when Mr. Jones and his friends turned into the hotel. But you'll see them do a U-turn and turn right into the hotel. Now they're going southbound, the Impala, and they're going to turn into the hotel. When they turn in, like we saw earlier, they take an immediate right in the parking lot and go up the east side of the hotel to avoid the portico. They go up to the northern end of the parking lot. They go westbound across the northern end, and now you see the Chevy Cruze, by the way, blowing through a red light on Fowler to follow and turn into the Home to Suites. You're going to see several camera angles now from the Home to Suites picking up the Impala as it travels in a circle around the north side of the hotel complex, coming out on the west side of the hotel, around the corner from the portico. These are the individuals in the Impala. The driver, Mr. Gathright, and both the Murphys. So, again, color-coded. We're now looking again at the overhead of the Home to Suites and the Holiday Inn. Home to Suites is the vertical, Holiday Inn to the left of the screen is the horizontal building. The red is the Impala. And you see it goes right into the parking lot, takes an immediate right, goes up the east side of the parking lot to the north side, then goes west on the top of the parking lot, all the way around the Holiday Inn, the evidence will show, and comes out, that last arrow to the far left, on the west side of the Home to Suites. On the west side of the Home to Suites, in the center of the white roof of the Home to Suites, you see a purple icon. Just to the left of that, where it says Home to Suites, you see a rectangular aqua color. That's a pool area. There are chairs, tables to that part of the hotel with some grills out there. and then there is that road. Just to the north of that, of where you see the pool, in between what would be the top left corner of the Home to Suites and the far right edge of the Holiday Inn, is the grassy area where the Dodge Charger flees, popping over the curbs there, waking up Mr. Norris in the back seat, and then comes to rest in that north parking lot. You see the green, that's Mr. Jones and his friends where they parked, where we saw earlier. And then the path of the cruise. The cruise comes, it blows through the red light at Fowler, moving quickly, comes down, following the Impala, turns into the hotel, goes right past Mr. Jones and his friends, turns to the west side. You're going to see video of most of this. Turns onto the west side of the hotel, goes up, does a three-point turn, comes back to the south, and exits just before the shooting. All right, so this is a camera on the east side of the Home to Suites that is facing southeast. On the top part of the screen is 40th Street, McKinley. You're going to see the Impala. As it turns into the hotel, it'll take an immediate right and cut across the top of the screen head, which is northbound. There's the throw of its headlights as it's turning in. And now it's heading northbound on the east side of the hotel. Same direction those red arrows showed you earlier. Next camera, this one faces north-northeast, picks up the Impala as it heads further north to the north end of the parking lot. This camera is on the north end of the Home to Suites, picks up the Impala heading into that northern part of the parking lot. And now it's on the west side. You see the pool to the upper right corner. You see that recreational area there with tables and chairs and grills. So you see the Impala comes down on the west side. It creeps down a little bit, but never breaks around the corner to where it can be seen by Mr. Jones or his friends. In fact, it turns and goes back to the north. And you're going to see the car turn to the left and park. Here comes the Chevy Cruze. These cars on the west side of the hotel will pass within feet of each other. There's the Cruze. The Cruze will go up almost even, and that's Tesla video picking up the Impala going to the left. And you'll see part of the three-point turn that the Cruze makes. It just did a wide turn so it can back up and come back to the south. Now it's backing up and it'll turn hard left and come back to the south. Meanwhile, the Impala has gone around the corner and parked just to the opposite side of the Tesla charging station. So you can see now in the upper part, you can see a car moving into a spot. That is the Impala. It backs out a little bit, and then we'll pull back in. Just a little bit of a glimpse of it up there. And now the Cruze is going back south to exit. So this is going to be a combined conglomerate of videos from that ring video at the Gazebo Pond Drive unit of the Airbnb where the conspirators stay overnight. And as I said, on the 22nd, the only person that enters is Miss Andrews. You'll see the next set of videos coming from the following day. after these conspirators have gone back there and got some rest, and now they're preparing to leave to go back to Jacksonville, mission accomplished. And this is when you will see them getting sloppy. You will see Mr. Chance appear on this video. You will see Mr. Davion Murphy appear on the video. And you'll see Mr. Gathright appearing on the video. This is when they first arrive on Saturday. This is the next day. The neighbor next to them is apparently moving in the unit next to them. That has nothing to do with them. Mr. Chance, and you can see over his shoulder right there, that is an Uber driver that has shown up to take Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews and Rashad Murphy back to Jacksonville. They travel back in an Uber. You'll hear testimony from the Uber driver that he picked up 3 people and drove them to Jacksonville, dropping them back at Sean Gathright's residence. There goes Davion Murphy coming from the other side, from the back side. There's Mr. Davion Murphy. There's Mr. Gathright walking out with bags. Mr. Chance. Just before leaving. And Mr. Gathright. Getting the code from Mr. Chance to get back in. Now, you'll see Mr. Gathright go to the side. He'll leave in the Impala by himself. Davion Murphy drives the Chevy Cruze back to Jacksonville. So, all of them go back to Jacksonville except Sean Gathright. Mr. Gathright, again, picked up on a license plate reader. This time, well, this is the other one we looked at earlier where he's coming. But you can see now he's being picked up on the 23rd at 4:13 hours, eastbound I-4. He is going out I-4 to the east. And then you see below that, at 4:25 hours, southbound Florida 595 and C. Fred Jones Parkway in Polk County. He is traveling to his grandmother's house in Auburndale at Opal Avenue, Auburndale. Here's Mr. Gathright. He has parked the Chevy Impala and he's walking inside. You will also see him come out of the garage through another camera. He will start wiping down. This has been accelerated. He's wiping the car down. And he ends up switching cars with his grandmother, leaving the Impala there in Auburndale and taking a Toyota 4Runner. He drives the 4Runner to Orlando and then back to Jacksonville. But first he wipes down the Impala. There's the 4Runner. The Impala is now inside the garage. Says goodbye to his grandmother. Everything's accelerated here, trying to save some time. He travels to Orlando, and again, you see some cell phone mapping occurring down there in the low left corner. I'm going to talk to you again about that in a few minutes. I'm going to go through that with you. But you can see Lake Eola, which is in downtown Orlando, and that first white box in the middle of the screen. Just below that, you see Church Street. He's being picked up. His phone is, he is at Parlay nightclub in Orlando. And he takes this picture of Don Julio and posts it. You'll also see some other images from that evening. He is there with other people and appears to be celebrating. This would be the night of the actual murder, and then it goes into the early morning hours of the 24th. You can see in that photograph, again, just going back to show Mr. Chance and his girlfriend going out with their bags to the Infinity, which is an Uber driver. This is the Uber. There's the receipt from Uber in the middle. It's $187, a 208-mile ride from Gazebo Pond back to Chipperfield Lane in Jacksonville to Mr. Gathright's address. Gives the route. Uber driver will tell you he picked up 3 people and dropped them off at the address, which is Mr. Gathright's house. This is them arriving, again, back at the place that it all started, at Mr. Gathright's house. Now, that's Miss Andrews by Mr. Chance's BMW. And you see Rashad Murphy in the light-colored jeans, holding the bag in his left hand with a beret or some kind of a cap on, opening the back door, putting a bag in it. You can see the Uber driver moving around on the left side of the vehicle, and on the right-hand side is Mr. Chance. Again, even the ghost, Mr. Murphy, got sloppy here. It was picked up on this video. Mr. Murphy wearing jeans that are consistent with him, what he was wearing 2 days later when the silver Chevy Cruze was stopped in Gwinnett County, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, where Mr. Rashad Murphy had fled. Mr. Gathright. Mr. Gathright ends up on that same date, June 26, he's back in Jacksonville. He gets pulled over for a traffic infraction. Officers speak with him. They end up getting him out of his car. They end up searching the 4Runner. And they find, among other items, these items. Now, the Max Tech ammunition, there are 2 boxes full of 9mm Max Tech, which is a brand of 9mm ammunition, suitable for being fired in a 9mm Glock. Max Tech is the same exact type of ammunition that was fired in this murder. There were 31 shell casings found in the crime scene, 9mm shell casings. They were all Max Tech brand shell casings. So that ammunition is found in his car. Incidentally, I mentioned earlier to you that these conspirators modified their weapons. And it wasn't just the Glock handgun that was modified to be fully automatic. When officers first arrived at the crime scene, at the murder scene, and began their investigation, they responded to the north end where the Dodge Charger had come to rest with Mr. Jones' body in it. Mr. Jones was laying across the center console. During this attack, he had turned, a bullet grazed through his right arm, it slammed into his chest, it ripped through his heart, and ripped through his aorta, which is the largest artery in the human body. As he continued to turn and try to go into the back seat over the center console, 2 other rounds hit him in the lower back. Those would go through his liver. By the time they reached the northern parking lot, Mr. Norris will tell you that Mr. Jones appeared to be dead. Officers who arrive there after hearing all the 911 calls, they go to where the Charger is, up by the Holiday Inn. And like I told you earlier, the officers follow the massive blood trail left by Mr. Edwards and left by Mr. Norris as they fled into the Holiday Inn. Mr. Norris will tell you they ran because they didn't know where these shooters were. They thought they could still be around, so they ran directly into the nearest building, which was the Holiday Inn. They even got on the elevator, leaving this blood trail You'll even see where they were grabbing a hold of doors, trying to knock on doors and open doors to get help. You'll see their blood on the door handles. They go up and just get off at the 3rd floor, leaving a blood trail. Officers arrive. They really don't know what they're dealing with at that point. They have all these 911 calls. They find this bullet-riddled Dodge Charger. They see the blood trail. They don't know if that's victims or shooters. Officers go in there. They think they're going to be confronting shooters, or at least they have to act that way. So they go into the hotel. They follow the blood trail. They go up to the 3rd floor where they find Xavier Edwards and Mr. Norris laying on the ground with their wounds, and they start rendering aid. Other officers arrive and begin their investigation. They start getting reports that there is a lot of damage to the south end of the home to suites in that portico. So a uniformed officer goes down there, and he's looking at the damage, and he's seeing all these 9mm shell casings laying there. But what he's not seeing are rifle shell casings. And you saw in those videos, and you will see in this evidence, there was a lot of rifle fire. 2 rifles firing at a high cyclical rate. There's not one rifle shell casing in that scene. And that's because these conspirators modified their weapons. They modified those AR-15 rifles by putting what are called brass catchers on the rifles. That is, it's a mesh type device that has a little metal wire frame, and it fits onto above the ejection port of the rifle, and it catches the shell casings as they're being ejected, so that there's no evidence left. And that's why there were no rifle casings in that scene. I want to talk real quick before I move forward into Mr. Gathright's stop there in Jacksonville about the attack that you've all seen now on video and have described to you. This evidence in this case will clearly show you that this was a collective orchestration of a collective intent, an intent based on malice and hatred. These shooters struck with suddenness and speed and overwhelming firepower. They brought not 2, but 3 shooters, 2 high-powered rifles, and a fully automatic handgun into a concentrated area, easily and rapidly establishing not fire superiority, but fire supremacy over the victim and his friends. Firing with absolute, you saw in that video, the evidence will show impunity, absolute disregard for anyone that may have been in the vicinity that they were firing in. The majority of the fire funneled directly into that Dodge Charger. But make no mistake about it, every single round that was fired that night, every one of them was dripping with the combined hatred and malice of all 4 of these defendants. All 4 of them. You saw how they took advantage of this ambush, and you saw their determination. How when Mr. Edwards attempted to flee, they followed him with their rifles, shooting at that car as it was fleeing up the northbound. They were not going to stop until they were sure he was dead. Firing again without regard for human life. This ambush spot was really a perfect ambush spot. Mr. Jones was sitting, as I talked about earlier, in his car. That caged him in a way in and of itself. To his left was the employee's car. Behind him was the Hyundai, his girlfriend's car. He had nowhere to go because to the right of him were the walls of the hotel. A hotel. And on the other side of the walls of that hotel was concentrated, dense humanity. The hotel was packed. It was full of human beings, of people. Mr. Jones and his friends were turned away. Their room had been given away. The hotel was full of people, parents with their children there to attend orientation at USF, parents with their children and other people here in Tampa, sightseeing. That hotel's located right up the road from Busch Gardens and the Yuengling Brewery. They were here. All of those people in that car, in that hotel, none of that affected these shooters. They shot with impunity and with disregard for anyone in the area. And you'll hear those rifle rounds that were being shot by Mr. Davion Murphy and by Mr. Gathright as they pursued the charger up the northwest side of the hotel. There are impacts up and down that western side of that hotel, several of which went through windows, several of which coursed through hotel rooms above sleeping guests, sleeping in their beds. You will hear from one guest who will tell you she was there with her husband and her daughter's boyfriend. Her daughter's boyfriend, they were awake and grabbed her, bringing her to the ground to try to protect her. These conspirators had no cause for concern. There was mass confusion caused by the surprise and this firepower. You saw the fleeing cars, the Hyundai and the Altima, crashing into each other and going in different directions. They didn't know what had hit them. Camilla Bentley gets shot in the arm. She flees southbound on McKinley. She goes to Advent, well, she drives a distance away, and then she goes back and picks up Tafa and Aaliyah Albrecht and her friends. And then they go to Advent Health where she's treated. Amani Turner, the victim's girlfriend, they're not from Tampa. They don't know where they are. She just gets out of there and goes south on McKinley. Somehow, she ends up going eastbound on Fowler, away from the hotel, and comes upon a USF Police Department traffic stop. They get out of the car, her and Mr. Howard, they make contact with the police, who can barely understand them because they're so frantic. They get back in their car, and they take off. The police try to follow them, but they are going so fast that it's hard for them to keep up. Miss Turner comes come back to the west, the intersection of McKinley and Fowler. Instead of turning left and going south and going in the entrance that the conspirators took and Mr. Jones and them had taken initially, she just goes straight into the landscape. She goes over the curb, over the grass, over the bushes, into the parking lot, and ends up by the Dodge Charger in the north end of the parking lot. A TPD officer responding sees her doing that and follows her, not knowing what her involvement is. Mass confusion, but not confusion to these four conspirators because they simply slip away into the darkness of this confusion. They slip away and go back to their Airbnb where they hole up until they go back to Jacksonville. During this attack, I talked about there being fire supremacy, but I want you all to be assured in this evidence, there was not one round, not a one that went anywhere other than towards Charles Jones and his friends. There wasn't one round, not even one, that was fired back in defense, because there was no defense to this planned attack. As I said earlier, they laid down a solid wall of lead. Without a single round of resistance, the evidence will show. Nothing, zero. And they completely and utterly leveraged surprise, speed, and violence of action. Surprise, speed, and violence of action. They surprised Mr. Jones by their coordinated efforts, completely catching him off guard. He sat in the front seat of his car as helpless as a child, defenseless, completely at their mercy, and they showed none. They then acted with speed to maintain the advantage that they had gained.
There's been an objection. So I'm just getting Mr. Harmon again. This is just opening statement as far as what the state believes the evidence will show. So.
They went to their firing positions rapidly, using speed in this attack, maintaining the advantage that they had gained through the surprise of this ambush. Violence of action. They brought overwhelming firepower. As I said, not one high-powered rifle, but two. Not a single shooter, three shooters, triangulating their fire. One, Davion Murphy, acting as a backup shooter, as a hedge against flight, which worked like a charm in this case because Mr. Edwards drove right in to that vortex of fire. These conspirators were taking no chances. Not this time. Charles Jones would not escape this attack. Now, going back to Mr. Gathright's traffic stop. So he has 2 boxes of ammunition. The brand matches the brand of the 9mm shell casings in the scene. There are a lot of brands you will hear from the firearms examiner and analyst who the state of Florida will call from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's crime laboratory here in Tampa, an expert in firearms and tool mark analysis. She will tell you, and you will also hear from a detective, Bernardo de Jesus, who has a lot of expertise in Glock firearms, AR-15s, and the firearms industry as a whole, that there are many, many, many types of 9mm ammunition. Federal, Remington, Spear, CCI, Fiocchi, all kinds of brands. And out of all those brands, Mr. Gathright had MaxTech in his car. The same brand as the 9mm ammunition found, the shell casings that were left in the scene. He also had this box in that 4Runner, a box that was full of 5.56 NATO shell casings and 223 Remington shell casings, both of which can be fired, you will hear in the evidence, from a 5.56 caliber chambered rifle. They are both compatible with being fired. Now, in this investigation, you heard that this wasn't the first attempt on Charles Jones' life. 9 months earlier, when he was leaving his house at 6 in the morning, 6 hours after the murder of Antonio Tilley, attackers with high-powered rifles shot up his car when he pulled up to a stop sign. He was able to escape with his life. He had a leg wound. Incidentally, that bullet stayed in his body and was recovered from his leg during the autopsy in this case. But those attackers did not use brass catchers, and law enforcement collected several rifle shell casings in that scene. And they compared them to these shell casings from Mr. Gathright's 4Runner. And guess what? They were identified to each other as having been fired by the same rifle. Mr. Gathright's house, just a standard suburban house. You see the 4Runner sitting there in front. Again, this is where they left from on that Saturday. Officers from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office obtained a search warrant, and they searched Mr. Gathright's house. One of the things they found was in the sink, they found all this items torn up, paper, cardboard, plastic, soaking in water. And when they took it out and put it onto a sheet of paper, to let it dry, they noticed that all of these wrappings and packagings all dealt with firearms. There's Magpul, there's Sig Sauer. These are all manufacturers of firearms, ammunition, and firearm components. During the search of this residence, they found ammunition boxes with ammunition. That box is full of, the evidence will show, 5.56 NATO rounds loaded, some shotgun shells. This box is full of 5.56 NATO rounds. And then they looked at this safe. Inside the safe, they located some rifles, and they located a brass catcher. This one had been detached. But inside of that brass catcher, they located 2 9mm shell casings. Those shell casings were compared to a 9mm shell casing from the scene of Mr. Jones' murder by the same firearms analyst, Amara Drew, the same analyst I was talking about earlier. And these 2 shell casings were matched to that shell casing that was fired from that fully automatic Glock in the murder, in our case, of Mr. Jones. This was found in Mr. Gathright's residence inside of a brass catcher. And then they found a rifle with an attached brass catcher. And they found another rifle, both AR-style rifles, one a .300 Blackout, one a 5.56 NATO chambered rifle. They found magazines for 5.56, also can be utilized with .300 Blackout to run in an AR-15. That magazine, that's the top of the magazine where the bullets feed into the gun. That is 5.56 ammunition. And then this is back at the sheriff's office. We saw earlier some of the ammunition that's laid out. In July, Mr. Chance and his girlfriend were detained and arrested at Mr. Chance's residence in Jacksonville. This is July 27th, and a summer rain shower by officers from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. That's Mr. Chance, who had been called out of his residence and backed up and came out before being handcuffed, and Miss Andrews. We saw this earlier with Mr. Chance. So I want to talk to you real briefly. I want to start talking specifically about each defendant, some evidence that you're going to hear and see that's related individually to these 4 defendants. But first, you will see in the evidence there was a lot of what's called cell phone mapping, where the historical use of a cell phone is looked into and investigated. That is a cell tower. We see those everywhere in our communities. On the top of the cell tower are the antennas. This cell tower has 3 sides to it. Those vertical items are antennas that are pointing off of those 3 sides. Now, what this shows, this is just a demonstrative exhibit to show you that each cell tower, especially ones that are 3-sided like that, there will be 360-degree coverage all the way around the cell tower. But each of those sides covers 1/3 of that 360 degrees. So each of them is covering 120 degrees. And that's what that is showing. And those are called sectors. Sectors. You saw earlier some mapping, shading that looked pie shape. That's why you will see that over the next several slides. So when you look at a slide like this is a mapping of one of the defendant's phones in the murder scene. You see the icon murder scene, that's right there, south of the University of South Florida. So when you're looking at that, the apex of those lines, the corner, is where the cell tower is. And then that is the sector of that cell tower Those antennas are covering that third of the 360 degrees, and that area out there is where the handset, the phone is, because it's connecting to that side of the cell tower. Mr. Gathright, this is a photograph from one of the cameras on the Tesla that picked up Mr. Gathright and Mr. Murphy running around the front end of that Tesla. You can see he is literally covered head to toe. Head to toe. He's wearing a hoodie, something black over his face, maybe a gaiter or some kind of a bandana. He's carrying a rifle, but you can still see a sliver of the top of his face, that it's light-skinned, and you can see his hands are light-skinned and that he has a very thin build. So we start here with Mr. Gathright. This is when he is at his house. Remember, we saw this video earlier. This is the same time, 2:45:48, when they're loading the Impala on June 22nd, and his phone is hitting off a cell tower that his house lays in that sector. So it is mapping his cell phone while he is there. This is a mapping of him leaving Jacksonville and heading down to Tampa and going through. So what you're going to see as this mapping proceeds, each time you see a line being generated, it's giving the date, the time, and the latitude, longitude coordinates of that connection, the phone connecting to a cell tower. You can see the sides of the cell tower being utilized, and now you can see the phone is moving as it connects to one cell tower, moving to another, moving to the next. So it demonstrates movement of the cell phone. Now he is heading down past, you see Gainesville. Soon you'll see him getting off of 301 onto 75 South. He's going down through Ocala, coming straight down. His phone is down 75. Now you see the markers down here relevant to our case. You see the Airbnb. You see him utilizing towers right south of the Airbnb. His phone will sit there for quite a while until about 9:30, and then his phone will travel down to the Teasers Club, which I'll come back to here momentarily. And then back to Airbnb, where it stays for a little bit, into the latter part of the 22nd, going into the morning of the 23rd. And now he starts moving back to Teasers. This is around the time that Mr. Jones is showing up at the club. Mr. Gathright's phone is right there. And now he's moving again, and now he's over by Truth 18. And now his phone is tracking. You'll see it start tracking away from Truth 18, back up McKinley to the murder scene, and then back to the Airbnb, where it'll stay for quite a while. Now he tracks eastbound across I-4, past Lakeland, over into Polk County, to Auburndale. What you saw in there was at about 9:30, Mr. Gathright, after arriving around 7:30, 7:45 to the Airbnb, about 2 hours later, he travels down to Teasers at 9:30, many hours before Mr. Jones gets there. He's casing teasers. He's checking the lay of the land at teasers. And you're going to hear in the evidence that he is searching for Mr. Jones, looking and monitoring.
Okay, again, Mr. Harmon, just a reminder that this is the evidence that the state believes you will show, okay?
Yes, the evidence will show that during this time period, Mr. Gathright is searching online for Mr. Jones. He is seeing the postings on Instagram, but again, that requires him to DM Mr. Jones to get his address. They're trying to locate Mr. Jones. So here is his cell phone hitting at teasers at 9:35. He has left the Airbnb. Now he heads back to the Airbnb around 10:30, 10:40. Now he's back at teasers, and then over to Truth 18. You can see his phone is in the sector of that cell tower just to the east of Truth 18. There he is at Truth 18. And now you can see in the middle of your screen, it's kind of light, kind of hard to see, the murder scene. His phone is at the murder scene, and there are 2 towers south of the murder scene that he is in. There are northbound sectors, and then there's another tower just to the east, and he's in the westbound sector. Now, you will also find in the evidence that Mr. Gathright sends a text to a girl named Kyla. And he says on the top, I need you all to text Fat Boy. He sends this around 12:32. All right? Fat Boy is Xavier Edwards. I need you to text him. Kyla texts back, about what? He texts back, sis, I need you to text Fat Boy. Tell him you trying to pull up about trying to see him tonight. She texts back, he know I'm gone. Him while I'm out. Then he texts Kyla back. He in Tampa. But make it seem like you know he there. He had a B&B with 6. That's Mr. Jones, Mr. 6. Be like, I can't remember. What is it? Where are you at? Be like, where you at? I want to pull up. I'm drunk and you trying to F. Then he texts her, never mind, in VM. Then she texts back, still before 1 o'clock a.m. on the 23rd. Who B&B? 6. That's Mr. Jones. Fools. Mr. Jones, Foolio. It's his B-Day and Fat Boy with him. Xavier Edwards. Mr. Gathwright's trying to locate, the evidence will show, clearly trying to locate Mr. Jones on the night of his murder. She texts back, not here in JX, Jacksonville. Nah, they in Tampa. She says, what? But play like you know it. Then she says, Fat Boy going to Beezer's tonight or some shit like that. Beezer's, teasers. So she has communicated with him. Is he there yet? He wants to know at 1:25, and she says no. So he is utilizing this girl, Kyla, to contact Xavier Edwards to get information on the whereabouts of Charles Jones within hours of his murder. Now, Mr. Gathright is receiving messages from Alicia Andrews' phone, which is saved in his account under the name Bron, B-R-O-N, at 2 o'clock in the morning, around the time that they're at Teasers.
Can we approach briefly?
Sure.
So what I was saying before we broke, Miss Andrews' phone starts sharing her live location with Mr. Gathright at 2. Of course, that is Mr. Chance We saw that in the other evidence doing that. In this slide, you can see that when the Impala is seen in the north end of the parking lot at Teasers, Mr. Gathright, the driver of that car, his cell phone is hitting off of cell towers around Teasers. The cell tower to the north, he is in the southeastern sector, the cell tower to the south and northern sector. When they are at Truth 18, you can see the Impala on video, and at the same time, Mr. Gathright's phone is hitting off a tower just to the east of Truth 18. More messaging. Miss Andrews' device sends live location to him at 4:25 a.m., about 10 minutes before the murder occurs. And again, that's going to be Mr. Chance utilizing her phone to do that. And then when the Impala is seen at the murder scene, Mr. Gathright's phone is hitting off of multiple towers right there in that scene. Mr. Gathright's phone, when he is seen on video holding his phone, talking to Mr. Chance, getting the code, is hitting off of a tower just south of the Airbnb. His phone, when he is at his grandmother's house in Auburndale, is hitting off a tower just to the south of that address, and when he's in Orlando, it's hitting there. His phone is a communication with Isaiah Chance. Now, these are different. This is CDRs, call detail records. This is a list of all calls made, dates, times, outgoing, incoming, the phone being called or the phone receiving from. He is communicating with Gathright's phone around the time on 6/22 and to Miss Andrews' phone by these records alone. Some images of the shooter on the top, farthest out away from the hotel. You can see the muzzle flash on that rifle that shooter is holding, but you can see the shooter is tall, thin, wearing a hoodie, more muzzle flashes. You can see a good outline in the headlights of the rifle, the outline of the rifle, including the sling attached to the rifle that is around his shoulder. But this is a tall, thin shooter with light skin. You can see him running into this tree because of his height. He is falling backwards, but is agile enough to catch himself and to continue firing. And again, his hand and his face are exposed, and you can see the light skin. There is no doubt in this evidence, and the evidence that will be brought before you, that that shooter was Mr. Gathright. This is a list of phone numbers. Mr. Gathright had got rid of his phone and was obtaining a new phone, had made a handwritten list that included several of his co-defendants' names and numbers. Moving on to Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy, the evidence will demonstrate to you, was the Glock pistol shooter. You can see the Glock in his left hand. You will find in the evidence Mr. Rashad Murphy is left-handed, his dominant hand. You can see the extended magazine sticking up just to his lower back on the outside, covered head to toe. Now, on June 21st of 24, the Friday night at 10:24, 22:24, Mr. Murphy was shopping at a Walmart in Jacksonville. I think we can get some video here. He is holding a phone in his right hand that is has a pink case. He's walking around. You can see the clothing he is wearing, the positioning of the belt and the type of belt. He is wearing boots, all of which look similar to the clothing being worn on the lower body of the Glock shooter, both going on the lower middle and coming back from the shooting scene. You can see in the video in the top middle photo there is some type of an issue, a cut or something in the left knee area of the pants. But anyways, that phone, when Mr. Murphy leaves Tampa in the Uber and goes back to Jacksonville, the same Uber with Mr. Chance and Miss Andrews, he doesn't stay in Jacksonville. That's not far enough away. He flees the state of Florida. He flees into the state of Georgia, up to Atlanta. and is stopped on the 26th by Gwinnett County PD, who pick up his vehicle, the same car that was being utilized by Mr. Chance as the tracking spotter car, the surveillance car, the Chevy Cruze, the car that belonged to his brother's baby mama. It is picked up on an LPR flock system that Gwinnett County contracts with them. Officers from Gwinnett County start searching the area, and they come upon a hotel where there is flock activity, LPR activity. They stay in that area in the early morning hours of the 26th, and they end up encountering Mr. Murphy returning to the hotel in that cruise just around daybreak. He pulls into a spot. A Gwinnett County PD cruiser pulls up behind him. You will hear from that officer. You will see his body-worn camera as he exits the car, taking into account why this car is a suspect car. He draws his firearm and points it at Mr. Murphy, who is exiting the car, ordering him to show him his hands, and instead Mr. Murphy turns and runs and flees around the corner of the hotel. The uniformed officer gives pursuit on foot. You will see the video. He tases, he's yelling at Mr. Murphy, "Stop, police." He tases him, which knocks him to the ground, and they're able to take him into custody. Back in the car being utilized in navigation mode is that same phone. It is a phone that this defendant shares with Charmaine Steiger, and it is a phone that he left in Jacksonville. Mr. Murphy, you will not see any cell phone evidence for the ghost because he left his phone in Jacksonville. You can see Mr. Murphy's head poking up between the palm trees just before the attack. On the left, you see Mr. Murphy in custody in Gwinnett County. He is accompanied by Charmaine Steiger, his girlfriend, and the mother, I believe, of his children. They had booked into a hotel. He's wearing the same jeans that he's wearing in the driveway of the Gathright residence, Mr. Gathright's residence, when they came back in the Uber, but that's really not, I don't believe, going to be in dispute that is him in the driveway. This is the close-up of the reservation being made with the Airbnb at Lagoon. Hello, Rashad. Thank you for your reservation. It goes through confirming your reservation at Lagoon Oasis, staying from June 22nd to the 24th. And you can see that reservation is being made. You can see just at the bottom there, 3:58 a.m., early morning. He's asked to forward his driver's license. These are found inside of that phone that is collected in Gwinnett County. You'll hear from Gwinnett County officers that they conducted a search of this phone. And you can see there those images of the DL, his DL or ID card being sent on June 22nd, about 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 in the morning. Let me see, yes, 4 in the morning, because that's 8 o'clock UTC, so that would be 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. These images were located to the left in the phone, photographs taken of his leg and his feet showing footwear that appears to be the same type of footwear that the Glock shooter is wearing in the crime scene. On June 23rd of 2024 at around noon, Mr. Murphy posts this to his Instagram account under Ghost 187. Prosper and Junior, G-Day today, which you will hear from gang detectives. G-Day is Get Back Day today. Prosper, he puts down 187 babies. Prosper and Junior were individuals who were shot several years prior. They were members of a predecessor gang that became 1200, and that is an homage to them. The state would prove to you in its evidence just after the murder of Mr. Jones. Gerard Adams, going back to that murder that occurred in August of 18, Mr. Adams is a blood cousin of both of the Murphys, Davion and Rashad. So this wasn't just about gang affiliations, the evidence will show. As far as Mr. Murphy, Rashad Murphy, July 30th of 2024, because he was released by Gwinnett County. He was not arrested for murder up in Gwinnett County. There was not a warrant active at that time. July 30th, he was arrested in Jacksonville by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office detectives. And he was interviewed by two gang detectives, and you will hear their testimony. And they ask him about this murder, and they ask him about being in Tampa. He denies that he was in Tampa, and he denies it several times that he was in Tampa. He does admit that the silver Chevy Cruze that he was stopped in Georgia and arrested in, that he did obtain that from his brother's, the mother of his brother's children. He claims that he let someone borrow it that weekend of the murder to take it to Orlando. He admits that the phone that was in his possession in Georgia in the car, the Cruze, is a phone that he shares with Miss Steiger. But he challenges the officers to look at it because they won't confirm or be able to find any way to prove that it was in Tampa, which it wasn't because he didn't bring it with him. And he again stands on the story that he loaned out the silver Chevy Cruze, claiming that it was returned to him on the 23rd. As far as the Airbnb, he says he doesn't know anything about it. He would never let anybody put it in his name. When confronted with the text messages, he admits that he sent a picture of his ID, but he didn't know that it was being booked in Tampa. And again says he was never in Tampa, not that weekend. Doesn't know anything about the murder or about Tampa. And then the detectives confront him with the Uber video from Sean Gathright's house, and then everything changes. First, he says he goes there all the time. He describes Sean as a light-skinned guy. Then he admits that he put the Airbnb in his name, but keeps denying he went to Tampa. Then the detectives step out of the interview room for a while. Meanwhile, Rashad Murphy there's a blanket in there to keep him warm, puts it over his head, lays his head on the table for a while. They come back in and he still tells them he wasn't in Tampa. Then he claims he was physically in Tampa that week, and he changes his story. He's seen the Uber video. He says early that morning of the 23rd, he and another guy who the detectives investigate and find is a deceased person traveled to Tampa in some old car. He wasn't even here for 2 hours. He does mention that he went in the back door of a residence. And then he says he hopped in the Uber, just hopped in and came straight back to Jacksonville in an Uber. I want to talk to you real quick about principles and go through this a little bit with you. If a defendant helps another person or persons commit or attempt to commit a crime, the defendant is a principal and must be treated as if he had done all the things the other persons did if the state proves beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended that the crime occur and that he did some act or said something, anything, that was intended to and did either incite his co-defendants, cause them, or encourage them, or assist them, or advise them to actually commit or attempt to commit a crime. So a principal is a person who intends for the murder to happen and either incites, causes, encourages by some word they say or some act that they do that the other person or persons commit or attempt to commit the crime. For first-degree murder, the state must prove that the defendant intended the killing of the victim in this case, Charles Jones. It's not necessary for a principal to know every detail of how a first-degree murder will be committed, as long as that person intended that it be committed and did some act or said something that was intended to help or did help the murder to occur. But almost most importantly, a principal does not have to be present when the crime is committed. They don't have to be present when the crime is committed. If the defendant is found to be a principal, he is legally responsible and accountable for everything that his co-defendants did. And that leads us to Mr. Chance. Mr. Chance, along with his girlfriend, were in the car that was tracking, following, and surveilling Mr. Jones, and again, providing real-time information as to his whereabouts and location, even with the type of coordination that as the victim is exiting Teasers, the Impala comes right there within a minute and pulls into the parking lot from a completely opposite direction. This is his mapping. It maps him going all the way down from Gathright's house, all the way down to the Airbnb. And it's the same kind of mapping sequence that we saw with Mr. Gathright, but instead of going to Auburndale and Orlando, it tracks him back in that Uber going back north. We talked about Mr. Gathright, or Mr. Chance being at Gathright's house. He's hitting off of cell towers right there at the same time. Again, hitting off cell towers, so we know he's there. His phone is hitting off of the tower just south of the Airbnb at the same time on the 22nd that his girlfriend is seen at the front door. He also, you will see in the cell tower mapping, goes to the area of Teasers around 9:30 and is there for over an hour. You can see here the cell tower that his phone is utilizing by Teasers. When he's at Teasers at 2:30 in the morning with Miss Andrews, on the video, his phone is hitting off a tower. This cell phone tower is hitting near Hillsborough and 15th at the same time that the Chevy Cruze is being picked up on a license plate reader at 15th Street in Hillsborough. You will see a lot of overlapping in the state's evidence. And then the murder scene. When the Chevy Cruze is in the murder scene, Mr. Chance's cell phone is utilizing towers just to the south of the murder scene. When the Cruze is right there by Home to Suites, right before the murder, again, using that tower just to the south of the murder scene. And then he's back at the Airbnb, mapped there at around 3:08, which is around the time the Uber left. His phone is in contact with Miss Andrews' phone. His phone is in contact with Mr. Gathright's phone. His phone is in contact with Davion Murphy's phone. And his phone is in contact on the 20th of June, a couple of days before they left, with Rashad Murphy, Charmaine Steiger's phone. And on June 23rd at 10:29 a.m., just hours after the death of Charles Jones, he posts this to his Instagram account, a photograph of Mr. Chance, and the person giving the bird there on the other side of the car is Antonio Tilley, who we know is a dead, or not a dead ops, but is a member of their gang that was murdered. Mr. Chance, see if I can do it, giving the 1-12-1200 gang sign. There will be many other images of him throwing gang signs. This was found in his house during a search warrant. Bully down. That is talking about the 6-block bully gang. Miss Andrews' phone maps pretty much consistently all the way through with Mr. Chance's phone. Wherever his phone is, her phone is mapping there too, including the murder scene. So I will move through that, and including McDonald's. This is a photograph taken by her phone when she and Mr. Chance we're in the Truth 18 parking lot, and you can see in the background the second floor where the Truth 18 club is with the patrons. Outside, this is Miss Andrews' phone being mapped near Lottie off of 301, the city of Lottie, and there at the same time on an LPR is the Infiniti on the left SUV, the Uber that ends up at Mr. Gathright's house, and of course her cell phone is there. Davion Murphy, who the state believes the evidence will show is the shooter with the orange ski mask who was up behind the other two shooters. We have mapping of his phone from Jacksonville there. His phone is hitting off a tower just to the side of the McDonald's at the time he is there in the Chevy Cruze. His phone is hitting off of a tower just to the south of the Airbnb at 2:59, several hours after the murder as they were getting ready to leave. And then his phone is hitting off of a tower near Lake Butler, Florida, just northeast of Gainesville at the same time that it is being picked up on an LPR right there at Main Street in Lake Butler, Florida. His phone is in contact with Isaiah Chance. Mr. Murphy is the biggest, heaviest one of these defendants, just like the shooter who takes the rearward position in this attack. That's Mr. Murphy when he was arrested. You will see tattoos. You see many on his neck and chest. He has a 1200 tattoo on the back of his neck. He has the name of people from 1200 who have been murdered tattooed on his body. And in this video, you will clearly see in the evidence Mr. Davion Murphy taking full credit for his role in this shooting. That is just after his arrest when he is left alone in an interview room. Just to show, because it was a video, I wanted you to see a couple of still shots of Mr. Davion Murphy in action. You can see the muzzle flash, you can see the orange or reddish ski mask, and you can see his position, shooting directly at the charger, shooting again at the charger, and a last time. And there's Mr. Gathright on the bottom, following Mr. Edwards and the charger and Mr. Jones. And then Mr. Murphy returning, being caught on the Tesla video. Now, this is a X-application chat room, for lack of a better term. You see several icons on that black screen. Those are all people that are in this chat room. The victim is present under the name ESPN 98. That is Julio Foolio, Charles Jones. That would be in the upper right of those icons. And just so you all understand what you're going to hear is that all of these people in this chat room can talk at the same time. You're going to hear a lot of overlapping. You're going to hear a lot of young ladies talking. But you will clearly hear Charles Jones talking, and you will clearly hear Gutta Man, you can see his name on there, Mr. Chance, talking. They are arguing, and you will clearly hear Mr. Chance say, "Hey, Foolio, your foot okay, cuz? Your foot okay?" This was after, this is June 6th. This is June 6th of 2024, 9 months after Mr. Charles Jones was shot in his lower leg in Jacksonville. A shooting where there were shell casings scientifically linked to defendant Gathright, Mr. Chance's friend. And you will hear Mr. Jones reply to him if you listen.
Hey, God, you look at they telling us niggas ain't wild, that's
Hey, Julio, but okay,
Y'all would have.
yeah, my foot been
Hey, shut up.
got bigger fish to fry. Big old.
Your ass got bigger fish to fry, boy.
Why you acting like this beef good?
I'm curious about this. This ain't about man. They don't put alligators on you. They don't put gay alligators on you, all type of shit. Man. It still make me laugh. I know your trend.
Look,
I know
bro,
you ain't.
everybody putting shit out. Niggas putting shit out their ass. Niggas gonna be around niggas on most motherfuckers just saying all type of crazy ass shit. I'm not feeding to that dumb ass shit, man.
And not no corn.
Fuck, man. Like, I ain't mad about that shit, cause like the shit ain't true. So why the fuck I get mad about that shit? It's just like the little creep shit and like the other shit. Like, damn, better man creep now? That shit crazy. Alright, cool.
Talking about people, them niggas
Y'all
be
talking
dying.
in circles. Y'all talking in circles.
So you
Oh,
got
well, how you
friends
gonna
right
do
there.
that?
You said what?
I thought you got more friends right there.
Cuz, Julio, why you think when people fall out, people be lonely and shit, bro?
He got me in trouble. He got lonely.
No, he got
He got
me.
lonely.
No, hey, no, hold on real quick.
Hey, Kara, what you mean he got me and you to the devil?
So when they are communicating, you can see the speaker icon below their name moving. So anyways, you may have to listen to it a couple of times in the evidence, but you can clearly hear Gutterman, defendant Chance, say, "Hey, Foolio," I think he says, "Hey, Foolio, your foot okay, cuz?" And he says, "Yeah, my foot okay. I got bigger fish to fry." And then they start going back and forth. And Mr. Jones was already making comments calling him Gutterman or Gutta before that. But what's interesting, and this is recovered by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office game detectives who were monitoring this in the early part of June of 2024, and they intercept this and record it. On Mr. Gathright's phone, he has communication from Rashad Murphy's phone on that same date at approximately 11:18, shortly after that recording was obtained by JSO, by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, at 22:36, of Chance arguing with Mr. Jones on that X Spaces app. Gathright receives communication from Rashad Murphy. On the left, make sure that's going to be Rashad Murphy. Make sure bra in a good headspace before he go with his move. We got bigger shit to tend to. They ain't worth inward energy. Below that, you see the response from Mr. Gathright. He likes it first, and then he says, "I ain't heard from bro," talking about Mr. Chance, "today, but I'm going to check in with him." On the right-hand side, Mr. Rashad Murphy then sends this message. This is going around a little after 3 a.m. Probably not going to pick up. He on IG, Instagram, letting Death's N-words get him out of character. He turned up on that MF, and Mr. Gathright replies, "Damn, all right, let me see what's up." So we got bigger shit to tend to. This evidence alone demonstrates to you, number one, that all of these defendants know each other, they're coordinating with each other, and that this conspiracy is in existence as early as June 6, over 2 weeks before the murder of Charles Jones. Rashad Murphy in this evidence is trying to stop his co-defendant Chance, his co-conspirator, from letting the cat out of the bag. The evidence in this case will show you all. In this conspiracy and this murder, there was no cold feet. Nobody had cold feet. There was no hesitation. There was absolutely zero, nada, mercy shown to Charles Jones or his friends. What the evidence will show you in this trial is a cold-blooded, premeditated execution. A precise, a coordinated attack with nothing left to chance and no detail spared. The state's evidence in this case is going to reach back to the early morning darkness of June 23rd, 2024, and we are going to drag that conspiracy out of that darkness and into the bright lights of this courtroom for you, all of you, and everyone to see its wicked and vile nature, to see the malice, and to see the premeditation. For Charles Jones, there were no more birthdays. All that was left was a funeral. The state's evidence will prove to each and every one of you, beyond any doubt, we had a lot of discussions about proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We're going to prove this case to you beyond any doubt. There's not going to be any doubt. The evidence in this case will convince each of you. You will know, and it'll be crystal clear to you, that all four of these defendants conspired and murdered Charles Jones.